The show begins with two young climbers scaling a rocky hill inside a natural reserve. They're tied together with a rope as they climb. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a girl falls from above and her body dangles from the same rope that connects them. One of the climbers quickly secures himself just in time, preventing his partner and the girl from falling to their deaths. But the girl isn't alive. She's hanging there, lifeless, tied to their rope. We then shift to Detective Kyle, who's spending time with his young son, Caleb, in the same reserve. Caleb asks if they can go down to the lake, but Kyle gently tells him it won't happen today. Just then, Kyle's phone rings. He gets notified about the incident, apologizes to his son, and says he has to leave for work. The forensic team arrives at the rocky site, setting up around the scene. Kyle shows up too, riding his horse. He surveys the area carefully until a young officer introduces herself. Her name is Naya, a newly assigned deputy to the reserve's police unit. Kyle then questions the two climbers, who explain they were shocked to see the girl falling and know nothing else about what happened. The girl's body is still hanging from the rope. Determined to see for himself, Kyle decides to descend. He secures his rope, climbs down to the body, and examines her. He notices injuries on her legs and a beaded bracelet on her wrist. But when he touches it, the bracelet snaps and falls. Before he can look closer, the investigation team calls him back. An incoming storm means they need to retrieve the body immediately and send it to the morgue. The victim's identity remains a mystery. Later, Kyle inspects the rocks for blood traces. He finds smears matching her injuries and snaps photos with his phone. At the morgue, he meets his superior, Sutter, as the medical examiner gives a preliminary report. Sutter avoids looking directly at the body, keeping himself busy. The examiner points out an X tattoo on the girl's hand. No one knows what it means or if it's significant. Sutter suggests she might have been attacked by a bear, but Kyle isn't convinced. He argues the wounds suggest she was fleeing someone or something that was chasing her. He insists they dig deeper, but Sutter dismisses it as a waste of time. Back at the station, Sutter privately warns Kyle to let him know if he feels tempted to relapse into drinking, showing genuine concern for Kyle's recent struggles. Then, the head of the reserve, Lawrence, appears. Worried about the reserve's reputation, he demands quick answers before rumors about bear attacks spread. Sutter assures him they're awaiting autopsy results, but Lawrence insists it'd be better to declare her death an accidental fall. Kyle refuses. Lawrence has no authority over the investigation. Lawrence reminds Kyle of a past unsolved case, the disappearance of a man named Sanderson, missing for 6 years. A detective named Esther, who's investigating that case, tried to contact Kyle, but he refused to meet her. Lawrence presses him for an explanation, but Kyle walks away. That night, Kyle secretly returns to the hill, searching for more evidence. He finds photos that had fallen from the girl's hands and keeps them. Meanwhile, his ex-wife, Jill, wakes up to his late-night call. Surprised, she answers. Kyle tells her a meteor shower will pass tonight and asks her to come watch it with him, just like they used to. Jill, suspicious, asks if he's been drinking again before hanging up. Beside her, her husband Scott urges her to set clear boundaries with Kyle. She promises to talk to him tomorrow. The next day, Naya visits Kyle's cabin. She explains Sutter assigned her as his partner on the case and urged them to move fast. Inside, she notices the messy state of Kyle's living conditions. She informs him the girl's fingerprints aren't in any database. They still don't know who she is. Spotting a photo of Caleb, Naya mentions she also has a son the same age. She shares that she divorced and moved here to raise her boy. Kyle stays silent, uninterested in her personal life. Kyle then tells her they're heading into the reserve's forest on horseback. Naya hesitates, but Kyle insists it's the best way to cover ground. He tells her she doesn't have to come if she's not ready, so she agrees. Inside the forest, they discover a wooden cabin. Kyle steps inside and imagines the dead girl there. Blood stains on the floor confirm she was. They collect samples. Naya suggests she might have been chased by a bear when suddenly a real bear appears. Naya freezes in fear, but Kyle fires a warning shot into the ceiling, scaring it away. Following the trail of blood, they come across the girl's bloodied sneaker. Nearby, Kyle finds a bullet lodged in a tree. He calls the coroner, asking if the girl had gunshot wounds. The coroner confirms she had a bullet in her left leg. This proves it. She wasn't running from a bear, she was running from someone with a gun. Kyle warns Naya not to tell Sutter. They need to keep investigating on their own without interference. That evening, Kyle returns to his cabin to find Jill waiting. She admits she came to check on him because she's worried. They step inside, exchanging short, tense words. Kyle asks if she's happy with Scott. Jill says she doesn't have an answer. He asks about their older daughter, and Jill assures him she's fine, but it's clear they're both avoiding a painful subject, the very thing that led to their divorce 6 years ago. The next day, Jill calls Sutter, asking him to keep an eye on Kyle. She fears he might relapse. Sutter promises he'll watch over him. Back at the cabin, Kyle spends time with Caleb, who proudly shows him a drawing. Kyle then examines the girl's broken bracelet again. He realizes the letters on the beads spell something connected to a camping program. He rushes to his photo album and finds an old picture of his daughter during a camping trip at the reserve years ago. That's it. The dead girl must have attended one of those trips when she was younger. The next morning, Kyle tells Naya they need to track down the names of all the girls who joined those camping trips. He assigns her that task while he continues searching the forest. Deep in the woods, Kyle stumbles on a stash of illegal substances. On the box is the same X mark as the tattoo on the girl's hand. He immediately calls Naya, asking if the toxicology report is ready. He urges her to get the results today. They need to know if the girl was using drugs or not. To dig deeper into the box of drugs he found, Kyle goes to a young man named Teddy, who works at a hunting supply store. Teddy immediately notices Kyle watching him. Kyle pulls Teddy aside to his car, opens a bag of illegal substances, and warns him, if he's caught, he'll be locked up for years, since he already has a prior case on his record. Kyle presses him about the drugs, asking who's distributing them. Teddy swears he doesn't know anything about that kind. Kyle gives him a deadline. Find out who's behind it, or the next time he sees him, he'll arrest him. Then he leaves him behind. Later, back at his cabin, Kyle is approached by Detective Esther. She introduces herself and says she wants to talk about the Sanderson case. She explains she needs to confirm Sanderson's death. Kyle frowns and tells her Sanderson is missing, not dead. But Esther reminds him that by law, anyone missing for more than 5 years is presumed dead. Sanderson's family wants an official death certificate, so she was assigned to review the circumstances of his disappearance. She wants Kyle's details, since he was the lead investigator, but Kyle, clearly irritated, gives short, dismissive answers and tells her to check the official records if she wants information. He then walks into his cabin, shutting her out. Once inside, Kyle locks the door, visibly shaken. He flashes back to 6 years ago, the day he was searching desperately for his son, Caleb. He remembers calling out to him, spotting him by the lake, and then seeing him lifeless after being assaulted. And here the truth hits us. Caleb, Kyle's son, has been dead for 6 years. Everything we've seen of Caleb is only Kyle's tortured imagination. He simply can't let go. A sudden knock at the door snaps him out of it. It's Naya. She tells him the toxicology report came back. The girl wasn't using drugs. Kyle takes her on horseback to a hidden settlement deep inside the reserve. It's a rough camp where squatters and drifters live in tents. When they see Kyle, it's obvious they know him and don't like him being there. He speaks with a woman named Glory, who insists they just want to live in peace without police interference. Kyle asks where her husband, Apollo, the leader of the camp, is. Glory says he's gone hunting and won't be back for a few days. Kyle shows her the box of drugs, asking if it's Apollo's. She denies knowing anything about it. Naya then shows Glory a picture of the dead girl, but Glory denies ever seeing her. Naya tries showing the photo around the group. Most dismiss it, but one young girl looks visibly nervous, as if she knows something. Before Naya can press her, the group closes in, intimidating her. Kyle calls Naya away, warning she won't get anything out of the girl here. He mounts his horse and tells Naya to head back alone. He has somewhere else to be. Elsewhere in the forest, a deer is taken down by a sniper rifle. The shooter is a man named Shane. Back at his tent, Shane finds Kyle waiting for him. Kyle asks if he knows anything about the dead girl, but Shane denies it. Kyle's eyes fall on Shane's rifle. When he tries to examine it, Shane grows nervous and blocks him. Calmly, Kyle hands Shane his pistol, forcing him to hold it, while Kyle takes the rifle. He fires a test shot into a tree, then pulls the bullet out and pockets it, planning to compare it with the bullet pulled from the girl's leg. Shane gets angry, but Kyle rides off, leaving him fuming. Meanwhile, Teddy visits a tattoo shop. He asks his friend, the tattoo artist, if he knows anything about the drug box or the X tattoo mark. The artist claims he's never seen it before, but in the corner, another young man overhears and shows sudden interest. The tattooist quickly snaps at him to leave, insisting he knows nothing. After Teddy leaves, he receives a text from his friend. Forget about that tattoo. It's way too dangerous. Kyle takes the bullet he recovered to the forensic lab, asking a colleague to test it against the one found in the girl's body. That night, Teddy gets into his car, only to be ambushed. Someone is waiting in the back seat. A struggle erupts and Teddy is strangled to death. The next day at the lake, two women swimming discover Teddy's corpse floating in the water. Kyle arrives at the scene and examines the body. Just then, he gets a call from Naya. She tells him she's identified the dead girl. She found a photo of her as a child on a camping trip. Her name is Lucy. At the station, Sutter tells Naya that Lucy went missing from the reserve at the age of 7. It was Kyle's old case, a case he never solved. Kyle explains Lucy disappeared from a cabin without a trace. At the time, suspicion fell on her father, Roy, but they never had proof. Later, Kyle pulls Sutter aside and confides his fear. There's a serial killer in the reserve. 2 victims so far, Lucy and now Teddy. Kyle's guilt is written all over his face. He failed Lucy years ago, assuming she was dead, when in reality, she was alive this whole time. Meanwhile, Naya rides alone into the forest. She spots someone darting between the trees. She follows them into an abandoned coal mine. Inside, she finds a discarded gas mask. But as she steps forward, rotten wood beneath her collapses. She plunges into darkness. Back at Kyle's cabin, he notices Naya's horse is missing. Realizing she went into the woods alone, he immediately heads out. Naya regains consciousness deep underground, trapped and terrified. She spots a narrow tunnel with a faint exit at the end. She crawls through, but soon gets stuck, wedged between the rocks. Panic sets in. She cries out, sobbing, thinking she'll die alone, buried in the mine. Then, she hears Kyle's voice calling her name. She shouts back, desperate. Kyle talks her through it, calming her down. He instructs her to ease backward, and with his help, he finally pulls her out. Naya gasps for breath, shaking. She asks how he found her. Kyle explains he tracked her footsteps. She shows him the gas mask she found. The next day, Kyle shares his suspicion that Apollo, Glory's husband, might be connected to Lucy's death. At the station, a young man named Matt arrives, claiming he has information about Lucy. The officers ask him to wait for Kyle. Meanwhile, Kyle and Naya return to the mine together, this time exploring the far side. Inside, they discover a set of dentures. Kyle recognizes them immediately. They belonged to Apollo. He'd arrested him before, and he never forgot those teeth. Kyle calls the forensic team to the site. Soon after, they uncover Apollo's skull, killed by a bullet to the head. After that, Kyle heads back to the hidden village and hands Glory her husband Apollo's dentures. She insists that Apollo must have harmed himself, claiming he had been depressed for a long time, and denies knowing anything about his death. But just then, the police arrive. They surround the camp, search the area, and arrest everyone. During the raid, they discover drug containers marked with the same X symbol. In the interrogation room, Kyle presses Glory about who's distributing these drugs. She refuses to answer. Kyle demands to know why she doesn't care about getting justice for the murdered girl. Coldly, Glory explains that she has no sympathy for anyone but herself, because when she was sick, she had no insurance and nobody cared. All she wanted was the drugs to numb her pain. Realizing she won't cooperate, Kyle leaves. Outside, Sutter shows him Lucy's DNA report, revealing that Roy wasn't her biological father. Sutter suggests they should simply tie Lucy's death to the drug trade and close the case. But before that can happen, Kyle is called to speak with Matt, the young man who had been waiting. Matt explains he once lived in a village in Nevada where Lucy stayed with a pastor's family. He shows Kyle a photo from a church, clearly revealing Lucy. Matt then asks him if he'll get the reward money, but Kyle tells him to discuss that with Sutter. Meanwhile, Naya returns to the camp and approaches the nervous girl they had seen earlier. Naya reassures her she won't be arrested, only that she wants to talk. The girl finally opens up, revealing Lucy once lived with them and was her friend. Later, Lucy fell in love with a man named Tris. They often disappeared together, and Tris, clearly involved in drugs, used Lucy to help him. Naya asks how to find Tris. The girl says a man named Bakuna, a friend of Apollo, worked with Tris. Later, Naya tells Kyle everything. Bakuna, who had been arrested, said nothing in custody. Without evidence, he's released. That same night, Bakuna sneaks into the abandoned coal mine, wearing a gas mask. Inside, he reaches Tris's hidden drug lab. Bakuna swears he didn't talk to the police, and Tris believes him, handing over more drugs to distribute. But as soon as Bakuna exits the mine, Kyle and Naya are waiting. Now they know Tris's location. The police storm the mine, but Tris and his men escape through a hidden exit. The team discovers a bomb left behind. It explodes, rocking the mine. Kyle survives the blast, and after a shootout, he spots Tris trying to flee on an ATV. Kyle shoots him down, and they capture him alive. The next day, at Kyle's cabin, his ex-wife Jill tends to his head wound. She asks if Tris killed Lucy. Kyle admits all evidence points to him, but deep down, he isn't convinced. Later, during interrogation, Tris denies everything, claiming no connection to Lucy, Apollo, or Teddy's deaths. Kyle leaves frustrated. He tells Sutter that Lucy's case is far from solved. Her death, Apollo's shooting, and Teddy's strangling are all different. Kyle is certain the real killer is still out there. The following morning, Sutter finds Kyle drunk and asleep in his truck. He takes him to Ranger Lawrence, who announces that Kyle is officially removed from leading the investigation. Without protest, Kyle accepts and hands Lucy's case files to the new detective. But when he notices Lucy's bag still with him, he finds something hidden inside. Her phone. Charging it, Kyle realizes it's locked by facial recognition. At the morgue, he uses Lucy's lifeless face to unlock it. On the phone are videos she filmed in the forest. In one of them, Shane appears. Kyle's suspicions are confirmed. He calls Naya, warning her. If he doesn't return within 24 hours, Lucy's phone is in the trunk of his car. He rides into the forest to confront Shane alone. At Shane's camp, Kyle searches his belongings and finds the same drug containers. Suddenly, a sniper shot tears into Kyle's stomach. Shane had been waiting. Kyle collapses, but manages to crawl away before Shane arrives. Wounded and bleeding, Kyle struggles to escape through the woods. Shane tracks the blood trail and taunts him, saying he'll die just like his son Caleb. Kyle tries to fire back, but his gun is empty. Shane raises his rifle for the kill. At the last moment, a gunshot rings out. Naya shoots Shane from behind, saving Kyle's life. She rushes to him as he passes out from blood loss. The next day, Kyle wakes up in the hospital. Sutter tells him Shane is dead, and Naya turned over Lucy's phone to the investigators. Kyle thanks Naya for saving his life. She smiles and tells him she only returned the favor, because once he had saved her when she was trapped inside the mine. She explains that in Shane's camp, investigators found a stash of weapons and illegal substances. Forensics is now working to match the bullets from Shane's rifle with the one found in Lucy's body. If the match is confirmed, Shane will officially be charged with her murder. Meanwhile, Sutter makes a phone call to Jill, assuring her that Kyle is safe. Jill thanks him, then turns to her husband, Scott, saying she has a confession to make. She admits it won't be easy to hear, but it's time. With tears in her eyes, Jill tells Scott about her son, Caleb, who died 6 years ago. He had been assaulted near the lake by a man named Sanderson. At first, Kyle had no idea who the criminal was. But Shane had cameras set up by the lake to track migrating animals. When he reviewed the footage, he discovered the truth. Sanderson was the killer. Shane showed them the recordings and asked for permission to deal with Sanderson himself. Kyle refused. He wanted justice through the law, not revenge. But Jill couldn't stand it. She couldn't live knowing the man who killed her son was still free. So she went behind Kyle's back, offered Shane money, and asked him to kill Sanderson. When Sanderson later vanished, Kyle discovered what Jill had done. He considered it betrayal, and their marriage never recovered. Days later, Kyle returns to his cabin. Detective Esther visits, continuing her investigation. She asks Kyle about Sanderson's disappearance. This time, Kyle admits he was negligent in the search and says he's even willing to sign papers declaring Sanderson dead if it helps the case. Esther asks if he knows what really happened to Sanderson. Kyle replies softly, saying some events in life are never as clear as we want them to be. The next day, Kyle tells Sutter he's heading to Nevada to find the family of Pastor Cross. He needs to confirm with his own eyes that Lucy once lived with them, just like young Matt had claimed when he showed the photo of her in the church. Scott isn't convinced. It might not even be Lucy in that photo, but Kyle insists. He feels it's his duty as the original investigator. Kyle drives to Nevada. He finds the old church, now abandoned, but instantly recognizes it as the same one from the photograph. Nearby, he enters a neglected house, where he meets an elderly woman suffering from Alzheimer's. She rambles about her daughter returning home with her adopted siblings, but nothing she says makes sense. Kyle goes upstairs and notices a child's bedroom. The woman tells him it belongs to her daughter, who will be back from work soon. When Kyle explores the basement, he is shocked to find rows of children's beds. Carved into one of them is a name, Lucy. It's proof she lived there. Later, Kyle meets Faye, the old woman's daughter, who works at a bar. Faye confirms Lucy lived with them because her father, the pastor, took in unwanted children for money. Lucy cried often, insisting her real father was a police officer who would one day come for her. But years passed and he never came. Eventually, Lucy ran away and they never heard from her again. As Kyle leaves, Faye calls after him. She suddenly remembers something. Lucy once said her father was not just any officer. He was a ranger in the reservation. That detail makes Kyle suspicious. Back at the reservation, Kyle confronts Sutter by the waterfall. He reveals that he's requested Lucy's DNA file again, suspecting Sutter tampered with it. Sutter pretends not to understand, but Kyle shows him a childhood photo of Lucy. Finally, Sutter breaks down and confesses. He admits he once had an affair with a native woman named Maggie. Lucy was their child, but his family never knew. When Lucy was 7, Sutter took her from her mother, who was being abused by her husband, Roy. He placed Lucy with the Cross family, paying them to raise her. But Kyle presses further. He wants Sutter's rifle tested against the bullet found in Lucy. Sutter panics. Finally, he confesses the darker truth. Lucy had returned a year ago. She visited him often, threatening to expose their secret to his wife. He didn't mean to kill her, he says. He only wanted to stop her. But when she tried to run, he chased her. Injured and terrified, Lucy chose to throw herself from the cliff rather than die at his hands. Kyle is horrified. Sutter, trembling, pulls out a gun and threatens him. But Kyle keeps walking, unafraid. Unable to shoot, Sutter turns the weapon on himself. Moments later, his body falls lifeless into the waterfall. Justice is finally served. Lucy's body is cremated, and Maggie's family scatters her ashes across the cliffs in a sacred ceremony. In the end, Kyle walks alone through the forest to the lake. There, he sees the vision of his son, Caleb. Emotional, Kyle tells him he can't join him yet, though he once longed to. He apologizes for breaking his promise, but assures him he will never be forgotten. They embrace in one final vision. The next morning, Naya visits Kyle's cabin. She finds it empty, just a note asking her to take care of his horses and a wooden box left behind. Kyle has driven away, leaving the reservation, leaving behind the place where his son died. After years of being trapped by grief, he finally chooses to move forward with his life. And with that, the story ends.